Hi, this is Martin for Revelation Software and welcome to another video in my series looking at getting started with O4W. In a previous video I mentioned an issue with images, and any of you that are used to doing web applications and desktop applications that talk to each other, you'll be more than aware of the issues of where do you locate the image that you want to show in your application. While I've made the assumption that most people would be aware of that, it's been pointed out to me that you shouldn't assume anything and it might be worth covering that off in a separate lesson. So I thought, okay, how on earth do I cover that and make it worthwhile in an O4W lesson? Well, we haven't covered using the table builder tools within O4W, and it makes sense to cover that in this particular lesson. So that's what we're going to be doing. Now we're going to take a scenario, or if we just think about a typical scenario, if we've got an architect that has got an application that is managing their projects, or you might have a lawyer that's managing the cases, that individual might want to be in the office using the desktop version of the application, looking at files that pertain to the project or the case, or they might be on site working on the web system where they want to get access to those images or case notes as well, or files that are going with a case note for a lawyer. So the issue is primarily where you locate the images and then how you get to those or make them available to your users. And that can be illustrated by the clinic application, in actual fact, because I've run into this particular problem. So if I just run up the desktop version of my application, I bring in record number 1, then you'll see here that I get an image for record number 1, and the path to the image is a physical path to the image on my local drive. If I then go to record 21 that we've been working with during the O4W series, you'll find that the image doesn't show because I'm storing a URL rather than a path to my local machine. So we've got this issue where we can see some images but not others. In the same way, if I go to the O4W clinic application that we've been building, and I'll just log in, I've got my engine server and everything running, my web server, so we should be okay today. And if I run the patient window, we will find that if I run record number 21, which I think was Moran, then now I get to see the image where we didn't see the image in the desktop application. And if I go back to search using the breadcrumb, and we'll just do a search, I can't remember which one record number 1 is, so I'll put these in order. So record number 1, you'll now find that we just displayed the path because it can't find that image because we're saying it should be a URL. So we get this issue where we can see one image in one and one image in the other, but not in both. Now, one of the easiest ways of resolving that involves using code, and the nicer way of doing this would be to use code. And in the dictionary, we would probably just save the latter part of the file name. So the folder where we are locating the image and then the images. So we might actually have a main folder called images. Under that, our architect would have a project number folder, so project number 1, project number 2, project number 3, and then under each of those folders we would have the images or the files that relate to that particular project. And the same for the lawyer. Instead of projects, we'd have cases and then files that pertain to that particular case. And then when the user runs up the web application, you would have code that would take the URL, so the http mywebsite.com/images whatever, and then concatenate that with the data that we've saved in the database and then view that image. In the same way on the desktop you would do exactly the same, but in the code you would concatenate the physical path, the C/my application/whatever. Now one of the things you will need to think about with that solution is you'll need to make sure that all of the users, and this is a business rule, you'll need to make sure that all of the users keep all of their images in the one location on both the Office server and the web server. And you might also want to go a little bit further within your application so that you include buttons so that people could look up the image, but then when they save it, it saves part of the path in the database, and you also make sure that it will write the image when it saves the image to the file server, that it's saved in the right location on the Office server and the web server. You're getting the idea. I'm not a developer, so I'm probably not explaining this overly well, but you know, you get the idea of the issue and how we need to resolve it. Oops. Let's shut OpenInsight down properly. I don't want to shut down the engine. Let's close that window. That's fine. Now, I'm not going to have all the clever stuff where O4W or OpenInsight is doing the work for us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have two dictionary items. I'm going to have one dictionary item in the database for the desktop, which you had before, and I'm going to create a new one in O4W that is going to be for my URL. And to do that, we need to come down to Database Management, OI Maintenance, and into Tables. And I can see all the currently attached tables. I can attach tables, detach tables, create tables, etc. And I don't need to create a new table because we're going to be modifying an existing one. So if we click on the Dictionaries tab and we select our patient table and we click Go, we'll then be presented with all of the dictionary items and all the calculated columns within that particular table. And this will be very familiar to you if you followed the desktop solution. So if we just go forwards with the data columns, you can see there that we've got our image path, and what I'm going to do is to add a new data column. The ID is going to be image URL. I'm happy with varchar. The label, I'll just call that one image URL as well. I'm not going to worry about the conversions. The position I'm happy with, it's not key, and I'm just going to leave everything else as it is. So we'll save that, and if we go back and run our form, we'll do a create and modify, and the form that we want is our patient form. So next, and if we go to the Fields tab, we need to click on Display on Tab, and under Information we can remove the image path because that's not going to work for us anymore, but we do need to drop in there the image URL. So that's now in there, and in Display and Association we don't want image path, so we'll remove that, but we do want to put in image URL as the patient picture, so let's change those two over. In Edit and Display, we now need to go to Information, and we've lost our image path and we've got the image URL. The label's okay, well, everything is alright there, but we need to change links and pop-up. The link type is going to be an explicit URL, and the image to display is going to be the value as URL. So we'll save that. Next, we will save and we'll test run, and let's just bring back Moran, and we'll find now that the image URL doesn't display, so I've just dropped in the URL to our image. We might actually want to make that a little bit wider now. We'll save that. And let's just bring that record back, and now we actually get that image displaying. Let's just go back and make that control a little bit wider. I think we'll make that 40. Save that. Completion. Save. And test run. grab RAM, and that's a little bit better. I can actually go wider still, but you get the idea. Right, I've just gone away and populated the database with some proper data. So you can see here that I've got record number 1 in the desktop with the image, and I've got record number 1 in O4W, and if I scroll down then you'll see again I've got the image. So this is looking at the local one in the office, and this is looking at the one on the web server. If I do another search, and if we bring in, let's just do Phillips, and we'll bring in record number 2, so Joanna. And in the desktop again we bring in number 2, then you can see that again we've got these same images. So this is all working now. Now I've actually keeping the images in 2 locations, and in this interface we're looking for it locally on the desktop or on the office server, and in this particular interface, the O4W interface, we're looking for it online. So that's a nice way of handling images easily without too much work. But like I said earlier, in the real world you might want to make this a little bit more user friendly and just maintain, you know, 1 dictionary item. So that's the end of this lesson. It was useful to have the discussion about the issue with images, and also to have a quick look at how easily you can modify and enhance the database, or even create the database using the O4W tools. That's it for this lesson. I'll catch you in the next one, during which we're just going to finish up the application itself. I'll see you then. Bye bye.